people actually want to help you. Nobody that isn't doing what you want to do, nobody that is above you, that has already climbed the ladder, is never willing to pull a hand. I have never, thank you God, I have never been in a place where somebody who is at the top of the ladder hasn't reached their hand down to help me and pull me up. Hi, I just want to take a second and say thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so much. If you could take a second and make sure that wherever you're listening or watching, you can hit that subscribe or follow button so that I can continue to bring on amazing guests. And again, I just want to take a moment to say thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. Now let's go ahead and get back to the show. All right, welcome to today's episode. I'm so excited that you're here. This is going to be an episode all about how I landed a TED Talk and I was on Forbes, and the commonality between the two, even though they happen years apart. I'm sharing a story that I don't normally talk about, but the reason I'm going to share it with you guys, and I think it's important, is because there are so many points and levels of things that I did in order to get both of these outcomes that I think if you are listening to this and you're like, I want to aspire to be a TEDx speaker, or I want to potentially be on Forbes, the mental manifestation that you have to do before, and then the action steps that you actually have to take to make it happen, and why I say the two are very similar when even though they happen years apart, right? Okay, so to give you some context, my first TED Talk, my only TED Talk, was October 2023. And then my Forbes article, which I'll talk about in a second, it was 2016. It was right before I moved to Costa Rica. So let's start there, shall we? So here I am, traveling the world. For those of you that do not know, I quit my corporate job in New York City. I became a travel blogger. I used to get paid by brands to travel the world and create content. This was back in 2015. I quit my corporate job. I would travel the world with clean water filters to developing countries, and I would create storylines around, obviously, my experiences and get brands to promote me, etc. Now, on my vision board, and I talk about this in my very first solo episode, where I talk about having a bad bitch wish list, where I made a list of all of the things that I wanted to accomplish in that year. And I went ahead, and on that list, I said I wanted to be on Forbes. I said I wanted to be on the Huffington Post, and I wanted to be in Forbes. I was in Forbes. I remember now. I was in Forbes. It was 2017 because it was a year after. I remember. So I was getting confused with Huffington Post, which I could totally talk about as well, because there's definitely some important context with that. But let's go back to the very beginning. So here I am. I quit my corporate job. I start traveling the world. I had this long list of things that I wanted to accomplish. From a professional standpoint, I had this list of, I want to be on Forbes. I want to be on the Huffington Post. I want to impact, I want to change the world. I want to be known globally. Like that was at the core what I wanted to do. And so Forbes was on the top of that list, and also Huffington Post. So with the Huffington Post, I was sitting in Australia. And so back then, the way you would become a contributor or the way you would get published on the Huffington Post is you would write an article and basically you would pitch them and you would upload it into their profile. And if the number of words and the topic, it was like done through the computer, was like, and this is AI wasn't even like as good as it is now. And I don't know how it's done now, but this was way back then. Then the article was declined. You always had to have a strong hook. The most important thing was like that hook and the attention and what you're grabbing. And I remember sitting in a cafe in Sydney. I had sent in my Huffington Post pitch maybe 6 times at this point, so half a dozen times. And it kept getting declined. The story about the Huffington Post, the article that I was pitching, was how grief saved my life. And I talk about losing my brother and how that whole experience led me to travel the world with clean water filters and then save my life coinciding with that experience. And the article was really long. I believe that it kept getting declined because it was too long. And I had an editor, a friend who was a writer at the time, and she was sitting across from me, and she only known me for a couple of months. And she said, I'll never forget this. She said, Jen, if there's anything I know about you is that you will figure it out because you never let anything stop you. And I remember I was like so frustrated. And she said that to me. And I was like, you're right. I will figure it out. And so besides having a very strong vision and like a goal of what I wanted, which is what I talk about a lot, is like being very like completely opted in and locked in to the goal that you ultimately want. You could not, my blinders were on, my head was down, I was doing the damn thing. So I kid you not, you guys, I Googled. At the time, the editor-in-chief of the Huffington Post was Arianna Huffington. If you don't know who that is, just Google it if you're too young. For those of you that know, you know, Arianna Huffington was the editor-in-chief. So I Googled her name and her email. And I remember I went through hell and high water to find this. Like I went through LinkedIn, I went through Google. I can't even tell you the rabbit holes that I did to find this woman's email. And I found it. So this day I still have this email, by the way. But I sent her an email. And it was very direct and to the point. So just a fun fact, whenever you pitch to any publication, any news station or anything, I've been on a lot of TV shows, interviews, all the things, it has to be short and sweet, and you have to do it from a direction of why they care. Why would they want you to be on there? What is it for them? What are you bringing to the table? So my email was very direct. It was, this is a great article. Please read it. If you think it sucks, don't answer. But if you think it's good, please publish it. And I just put the link, and that was it. And I remember I just pressed send, and I said, okay, go with God, and I let it go. And I released the attachment of the outcome. But I did all of the work and the action steps to get there. Fast forward 2 months later, I am now back in New York. I am about to move to Costa Rica, and I did from Sydney. I was at a layover at my parents', and I remember waking up. It was a Monday morning, and I look at my phone, and I had an email from Arianna Huffington herself, and she literally said, this article was great. Thank you so much. It is now being published. It took her a month. It was like a month and a half for her to answer me, but she answered me, and I had completely forgot about it. And that was the first article. And then I became a contributing writer for the Huffington Post. So I say all that to say that the first thing I did was I had a vision. I locked in, and nobody could convince me otherwise, right? And then I took the action steps to make it happen. I was so resilient in my conviction that you could not stop me. And it's kind of like the same thing I did with my TED Talk in Forbes. So with Forbes, fast forward a year later, I was having breakfast with one of my old bosses back in New York. At the time, I was living in Costa Rica, and I was home for, I believe it was just a small break. I had a small 2-day window, and I was having dinner, it was breakfast with my old boss. And she had read my Huffington Post article, and she was like, it was amazing. She had obviously seen me grow and the brands and all the things that I was doing. And she said to me, I said to her, I was like, is there anybody that you know in Forbes? Because I really want to get published in Forbes. And here's the thing, you guys, and I want to say this very loud and proud. People actually want to help you. Nobody that isn't doing what you want to do, nobody that is above you, that has already climbed the ladder, is never willing to pull a hand. I have never, thank you, God, I have never been in a place where somebody who is at the top of the ladder hasn't reached their hand down to help me and pull me up. The people that are usually not willing to help you, or the people that are the haters or whatever you want to call it, are usually the people at the bottom of the ladder. And I say all that to say that it's not possible to find somebody at the top of the ladder who's not willing to help you, sure. But I've been, at the grace of God, I haven't had that situation. So my beautiful mentor, she was like, actually, I do. But what are we going to say? What's this pitch going to be about? And I was like, oh, actually, well, I've traveled the world with $14,000, which is crazy to say. And yeah. So, and I did it for an entire year. And she was like, what? And I was like, yeah. So the article was La Latina that traveled the world with $14,000 and clean water filters. And that article went viral, and it was published, I believe it was May 2017 or June 2017. And it was because I had a vision. I was like, you ever heard the saying, closed mouths don't get fed? That mentality of I'm going to ask if they can help, great. The worst thing that's going to happen is that she didn't have contact. And it's okay, great. I'm in the same place. But if she did, and she did, obviously that helped me get to the next level. So it was so beautiful that happened, and I am forever grateful. So thank you for that. And then the next thing is the TEDx. So I applied to do a TEDx talk. We are going to say over 100 times. I applied everywhere. So the way it works when it comes to pitching a TEDx is you go to a TEDx organization. There are all over the US at this point. You go to a website. There's usually an application that you have to fill out. The applications are pretty much the same very much. Maybe some of the summaries, depending, might change, but everything is pretty much the same. So I basically systemized that process. So I had a Google Doc that was very like my name, my bio, what the talk was going to be about, whatever. And I pulled a bunch of places that I knew I wanted to go to and do a TED Talk in, and then I just sent out pitches. And like every day I would block off time to send pitches. And I would literally there was a point where I was sending over a dozen a day for like 2 days straight. 2 weeks straight. Sometimes I think it's probably even more than that, to be honest with you. And I got pretty far in most of them. Like, I think it was like 4 times I got interviews. I got one very, very close where it was around, and every single organization does things differently. But one interview process was, I think it was something like 100 people applied. They narrowed it down to like 30, and I was top 30. And then from 30, it was going to be 12 people they were going to pick. And I was number 15. And it's so funny because I truly believe that everything does happen for a reason. And with the TEDx, I remember the organizer telling me, he said, I think you are a great public speaker. I think that you have a very good story, but something is missing. And I remember when he said that to me, at that point, I had applied so many times. I think this was like the 4th or the 5th time that I was like so close. And I was thinking to myself, this is never going to happen for me. And I was like really upset, but I knew that that was just a limiting belief. And so I was like, okay, if I am here and I want to be here, and the number one thing that stops me, like actually, I'm not even here, I'm here, I'm in the middle now, is that it doesn't feel like, it feels like there's disconnect. Like it feels like something's not complete. So I went ahead and I worked with a coach. I hired a speaking coach to help me specifically for a TEDx. And that was almost like a 6 to a year process of like really pulling out the idea and creating a really good framework. I'm going to go ahead and link my TEDx talk in the show notes, because if you haven't listened to it, obviously I'm biased. I think it's really good. But really having her help me build out a structure helped me so much in creating that structure, in creating the TEDx. Like it would not have been possible if it was not for her. And so that you know, fun fact, there is a structure to a TEDx. Like you can't just create a talk. There is a formula, like a TED formula that you follow when you become a TEDx speaker. But yeah, I hired somebody to truly help me. So I say all of this to say that there's 2 things I've brought up here that I think are really important. I talk a lot about self-belief, like self-concept, right? And how I saw myself in the vision, and the detachment to the final destination and just showing up and doing the action. And I think a lot of times what tends to happen with people is that we get so tied to the outcome. And like, look, I'm not perfect. I still struggle with this as well. But we get so tied to the outcome that it almost like creates a block and a resistance to how the results actually come in, versus like you see the goal, you're locked in, and you just do the reps, baby, right? Like, do not worry about the what if. Don't worry about if it's going to happen. No, because the thing is that like those thoughts are real and they will come in, but your job is to be so locked in that when it comes in, you're like, nope, get out of my way. Nope, get out of my way. I don't care. This is going to happen. And that's exactly what it was for me. Is just being so locked in with all of this and anything that I've done in my career, to be honest with you, when I've been on TV, like when I've pitched for interviews, all of the things. It's very much a goal. And when I decide, okay, we are locking in, right? We do the thing every single day to make it happen and execute on that end, and it fucking works. So if you're listening to this and you like this and you're like, yes, I love this, I want this, I am actually hosting a 10K 10-day challenge. It is all about sales, creating a signature offer and selling it, and scaling and learning the ins and outs of selling, how to sell on social media. So we have daily sales and content prompts. I basically am helping you guys get out of your own way when it comes to selling and making money online. And this is a 10-day challenge. It's just $22. I'm going to go ahead and drop it in the show notes for you to join us if you are interested. It's amazing. We have added bonuses, trainings that we've been adding throughout the days, throughout the earlier sessions, but it's super value packed. And so if you're listening to this and you want a little bit more of that, my suggestion is that you pop in there because it's amazing. Obviously, if you guys have any questions about any of this, and even what I'm talking about here in this podcast, I always love talking to you guys and really love hearing what is it that you guys take away? What are some of the nuggets? The best comments that I've gotten so far are very much like, I feel like I'm listening to my bestie. Like, I feel like you're speaking to me. Like, it's everything I need to hear. And like, this is what I love. Like, this is what fuels me. So please, please, please keep sending me those messages. I am forever grateful for you guys. Thank you. Okay, you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And I just want to say thank you so much for being here. And I will see you in the next one.